Can you believe that they shamelessly put cats in that trailer just to get people to watch it and like the video? I don't consider myself a Nostradamus for predicting that a movie on its second round of reshoots and its 5th release date is going to be a commercial failure.
You didn't see that coming?
In part 1, we talked about how the film features a cast of characters that won't be drawing in a crowd, and the MCU trajectory as a whole isn't interesting to the audience either. Today we're looking at the actors, director, and writers to see how they will almost certainly be injecting politics into this movie, and that will further drive the audience away. Okay, I'm not supposed to give the video away up front, but I want to make it clear why any of this matters. The amount of pandering and virtue signaling is bound to be sky high, as we'll see.
Why are you giving candy to a baby in the first place? Don't give candy to a baby.
And that's important because it's probably going to get in the way of the story, and it's bound to scare away an audience that just wants to see a superhero movie, not a sermon. Even people that agree with left-leaning politics don't want to see them in a Marvel movie. To be clear, the movie would still suck if it was on the other side and the villain was like a drag queen who was nefariously trying to trap children in a show, but DeSantis man came to stop him. Now, when people that look like me,
You're so white,
criticize these politics being in Marvel movies, we often hear the sad excuse of,
You ever think you're not the target audience?
I am well aware, and that is exactly my point. The target audience is tiny and is not going to justify the production budget, which in the last video we talked about might be as high as $300 million. When this movie doesn't turn a profit, it's because they match the wrong product to the wrong audience. Don't park your pulled pork food truck outside of a mosque and then complain about phobes and isms when you don't make any money.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
That said, let's talk about the politics of the people involved, and then we'll talk about that new trailer. First up, we've got writer and director Nia DaCosta, who is very inexperienced. She has 2 feature film credits, Little Woods and the most recent, Candyman, both of which receive middling reviews. Besides those, she's got a handful of producing and directing credits for short films that were shown at festivals. There are 2 big problems this presents. The first is that she has been put in charge of a massive project that is supposed to rival the Avengers. The MCU is not dead, but it's showing very worrying symptoms, and they need a big win to restore confidence. You don't hand that kind of responsibility to someone with this kind of experience. She hasn't managed any large action sequences, any large amounts of CGI. Chances are her inexperience is going to show in the final product unless this movie is going to be made by committee. Admittedly, I'm a very cynical person, but to me, DaCosta feels like a PR hire. She is now officially the youngest person to direct a Marvel feature film and a black woman. So young black female gets highest role in movie making. I don't feel like it's that much of a stretch to suggest that Marvel brought her on so they could virtue signal. That leads to the earlier speculation that this movie is going to be run by committee with other Marvel folks doing the lifting for the action and CGI sequences. If that's the case, it's going to feel like a movie made by committee, and that's going to lead to poor reviews, which is going to lead to lower turnout.
Wake me when the show starts.
It's already been on a while.
Wake me when it's over.
Or I'm wrong, and she's in full control, which is very worrying for the political tone of the movie. DaCosta makes projects that deal with liberal ideas about race, socioeconomics, and gender. Her debut film, Little Woods, hits all the talking points. 2 women are forced into crime because
poverty
and
gender
and
capitalism
and
oil industry.
The main character has to run pharmaceuticals across the Canadian border because
American healthcare.
her sister has to be smuggled into Canada just to have an abortion because
Sexism
and
American politics.
it's the kind of movie that highbrow critics love to praise and audiences could not care less about. Reading the description reminds me of 2006's Babel, where everything is just horrible and you don't know why, but it's supposed to be deep. One critic compliment sums it up nicely. It's a stunning, deep, and thoughtful portrait of 2 marginalized women in America forgotten by city folk and the political class.
Wow, yeah, that's heavy, Ogre.
Then her second movie is Candyman, which is a horror flick that also deals with issues of race, gentrification, and police brutality. Cool. Quick aside, the movie Candyman takes place on the site of the old Cabrini Green housing projects. There's another one in nearby St. Louis. It was called Pruitt-Igoe. If you've never dug into the history and downfall of these projects, it is absolutely fascinating. I highly recommend looking into it. Feeling basic today, just regular old Folgers and half. It's in my cup where I keep my caffeine. Got this cup from a website that no longer exists, where I also bought a t-shirt that contains the numerical answer for life, the universe, and everything. So why are DaCosta's politics relevant? Marvel is losing momentum and they need a big win right now. And that means broad appeal, and heavy messaging ain't gonna do it. There's a reason Tyler Perry makes Tyler Perry movies and Michael Bay makes Michael Bay movies. They're different directors for different audiences and they have different budgets. Neither is better. Perry makes a profit on every movie he makes. So if Spike Lee gets hired to handle the next billion-dollar Avatar film, it's gonna be a damn mess because you're mixing up genres and messages and audiences. Given DaCosta's background, that is exactly what's happening here. And I do feel confident that she's gonna inject politics into this movie. She is a young director being handed a massive franchise. She's absolutely gonna take the chance to over-ambitiously push her personal message on the biggest stage she's ever had. You might be thinking, Greg, those are important issues. We got to talk about those issues. And you are 100% correct. But if you put them in a Marvel superhero movie, the audience ain't going to show up and it's going to lose money, and don't act surprised. I know it sounds base, but Lisa, can you tell them, what does a movie need more than anything? She understands the goal. My goal is to entertain you first, but also to get you to improve yourself. And I always recommend Audible to do that. Get you a lecture, learn you something, invest in yourself. You want a free month of Audible? There's an affiliate link in the description. Teyana Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau, is also a producer and star of race films. They include Dear White People, Chirac, If Beale Street Could Talk, and the aforementioned Candyman. All films dealing with the Black experience, Black stories. That's cool, and I want to re-stress the subject matter is not wrong. The issue is Black-centric movies don't cost what Marvel movies cost, and they don't gross what Marvel movies gross. If she pushes to bring in race politics, it's going to drive ticket sales down. Lastly, there's Brie Larson, and it's pretty well known that she and the audience aren't getting along. Many people think she said she doesn't want white men seeing her movies, but that's actually not true. That situation actually was she was talking about the movie A Wrinkle in Time, and she said,
I do not need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him. I want to know what that film meant to women of color, to biracial women, to teen women of color.
That movie was widely panned and lost $120 million. This is my exact concern for the Marvels. If it's not made for white men, and that's perfectly fine, but then when they don't show up and the movie doesn't make the $700 to $800 million that it might need just to break even, please don't act surprised. I don't want to devote too much time to this, but apparently Paris and Larson are feuding on set, according to rumor. Larson supposedly wanted the movie to be called Captain Marvel 2. It's all rumor, and it might be overhyped by people that just want to see a cat fight. But if it is true, it's going to reflect in the movie when we see poor chemistry between those actresses. Lastly, DaCosta did not write the screenplay by herself. Megan McDonnell has 2 credits. One for WandaVision and one for a short video called Meet Cute. Zeb Wells is credited with writing 1 episode of She-Hulk, doing a lot of work for Robot Chicken in addition to his main career of being a comic writer for Marvel Comics. McDonnell's lack of experience is just as much of an issue as DaCosta's, and Wells' work on Robot Chicken is worrisome because that's a very specific type of humor. From what we saw of the trailer, the humor looks to be Thor Love and Thunder level, which didn't work out well. And let's talk about that trailer. We didn't get much plot in this movie, we just got a really kick-ass Beastie Boys track over what are probably supposed to be the funny parts of the movie. The trailer was pretty fun. It looks lighthearted and honestly very cute in spots, but the movie's still not gonna turn a profit. Can you believe that they shamelessly put cats in that trailer just to get people to watch it and like the video? They used to advise writers to save the cat. Now, in Marvel Cinematic Universe, Cat saves you! Obviously, we've only got 2 minutes to go on, but it looks like the body swapping humor is going to be heavily relied upon, as is Kamala's fangirling. Both are going to be fun to a point. Knowing Marvel, they're going to be overdone in the first hour. Wells' Robot Chicken humor is evident here, and since this movie started production years ago, it's going to contain the same comedic tone as all the most recent films. They've done some reshoots, but they haven't had enough time as a company to fix what are obviously major problems with the brand. Just based on this trailer, I think it's going to feel very much like Thor 4. quips on quips on quips. Quip. With the people involved and Marvel's history so far, this movie seems like it's going to be a big, preachy mess with low-hanging fruit comedy that a lot of men are not going to want to go see. And as we talked about in the Why the Female MCU is Failing video, a lot of women aren't going to want to see it either. Marvel is losing the audience. Like it or not, sex sells, and men showed up to the theater to see their favorite childhood heroes and Black Widow. And sex sold the women too. Can you look at me with a straight face and tell me that Chris Hemsworth's acting is what sold Thor? Or Chris Evans as Captain America? Agent Carter is every woman in this scene. Like, oh, I want to touch you. Oh my God, I just want to touch it. Obviously, sex is not going to hold the audience's attention long term like a good character will, but it does get him in the door. These new characters, save for possibly one day Ms. Marvel, are not inspiring or empowering the audience like Steve Rogers or Tony Stark did. Marvel was successful when they had characters on screen that one gender or the other wanted to be or bang. Let me know your thoughts on the Marvels and that new trailer and the trajectory of the MCU as a whole. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.